Hi, everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and I've been waiting for so long to meet you in a common space where we can have the conversation that we will be having today. Um, just very briefly, in this session, where we want to hear from you. So I'm going to spend a few minutes along with my co-host Jennifer, talking about schools and education, introducing ourselves, what we've learned so far about the theme, and then share with you what we've been doing so far and get your feedback and your reactions on that. So without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Jennifer. If you're ready to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Brandsburg Engelmann. I am in Frankfurt, Germany, originally American, but have been living here in Germany for quite a long time. I have been an educator in secondary schools, mainly in an international school context, for about 26 years, and recently have just left teaching, at least temporarily, to do some freelance curriculum work, mainly focusing on regenerative economics. So I'm deep in a process now to create a new secondary school course that I hope will displace mainstream economics in secondary schools. Thanks, Carolina.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we're really thrilled to be here and invite you to look into our kitchen, where we are developing these foundational donut economic learning tools, and it's just the start of our journey. So it's probably the first time that most of you see me as well. In my training, I'm a social impact designer, and I am a transdisciplinary educator and researcher, and I really believe in the deep power of hands-on real-world learning. So in my role as a schools and education lead at Deal, I really have the passion and the ambition to co-create with all of you, with students, with educators, with lifelong learners, with curriculum designers, all the network of influential people that may transform what we know of education today. So I'm really interested in looking at not only the core tools that we will be discussing today, but in the near future, learning experiences and other tools and resources and systems of how education is changing all around the world, in the global north and in the global south. I am born from a historically marginalized country, Colombia, so I am deeply aware of the consistent failures really that separate the education systems across the world. So I really find that education is sometimes that really golden ticket to create and transform people's lives. And hence, I carry that deeply in my heart with all these tools that we want to develop and that we will be sharing with you now. So there we go. So moving on to a brief introduction of the theme. Everything that we do about the donut has to do with learning and learning by doing. And now, for the first time, we're opening that kitchen here with you. And we've been working on this theme independently for around 10 months or so now. So it's still very early stages, but we've had an amazing journey so far, where we have been able to identify key priorities that you are listed here on this slide. But this evening, where we would like to focus on is on the creation of this very first step of the Doughnut Economic Foundational or core classroom materials. And we want to hear from you, your reactions. So while I will be, something happened with my screen.
We just need your slides on, Carolina. We can't see them.
Are they not? Let me just try again. Can you see them now?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Thank you for warning me. So, so this session is going to focus on that first priority. So I will now jump into what we've been learning so far. And we've done this sensing the theme, we call it, because we've tried to capture from our community in schools and education, not only what comes to mind when we think about education, but also the feelings that we have, how we're dealing with this transformation and the frustrations and the challenges that we see when we are in these settings of learning. So we're definitely determined to continue doing this in a co-creative spirit from a very bottom-up approach where you are the experts. So I'm going to share the key things that we've learned so much. We've collated some of the most precious things that we've heard along the last 10 months. But very conscious of the time today, I'm going to pick the top 5, which I think are the strongest that are leading our work so far. We've heard very often that there is a need for developing foundational core tools that involve the global north and the global south, that are also having this ambition, consequentially, content that is shaped and contextualized in different places, not only by the teachers or facilitators, as we prefer to call them, but also by students, so that different countries around the world can infuse the sensitivities of their context and make them their own, especially thinking of their everyday lives. We've also heard that there is a strong need for these materials to be action-led, so that the teachers and the students in these spaces are not learning only from their head, but also from what they do and how they practice this in their everyday life. So it's a learning space that we hope will carry on beyond the walls of a formal education setting. And drawing on that, we're also very keen to imagine spaces of learning that will go beyond those 4 walls as well, not only in the formal, but in the informal, where you don't have to think or wait until you have professional, if you say so, of a teacher that comes and decides to teach this to students, but that it can be picked up quickly and easily and accessible by anyone who is interested in sharing this with young people. And finally, we've also heard that there is a very strong need for these materials to be transformative. So in other words, that they don't stay and sit on a shelf collecting dust, but that they also inspire future generations to reimagine what education and the skills and the capabilities that they need for the future, so that they permeate their everyday lives as they practice doughnut economics. So we're very aware that at the moment we have this old economic thinking currently dominating the design of education. And so we see in our proposition that there is also space for us as DEAL to play a role in the transformation of this education. And this slide here is oversimplified, but we hope that it will grow and continue to evolve as we find out more from our experiences. So at the moment, we are framing the doughnut economic core education materials, looking into the future with essential ways of thinking or principles that we need in the 21st century education. You see there on the green column some of the things that we've been hearing and that we've been collecting and that we are using to drive the development of these tools. But we know that this journey is not frozen, and that it's an ongoing relationship with you, with young people, and old people as well. So we are conveying doughnut economics and its ecology as transformational and as meaningful to us, but it is changing, and we know that it will continue to do so. Here on this slide, a lot of words, but really what I wanted to convey here is that we've come to this very clear and deep understanding that the state of humanity that we have at the moment and in education is not only about solving problems and see how we encounter tomorrow, but that is really about looking at education through a different lens and how can we change that consciousness of what it means. So we want to contribute to this by bringing doughnut economics into schools and education in a journey that expands the view of the world and that it inspires and empowers others without necessarily us controlling everything, so that we can hand it over to the young generations and the facilitators. So to make this possible, we really envision that this has to be like a facilitated space where we have some guidelines and some principles and strong integrity across the board, but also where these relationships have space to grow and develop in multiple interfaces, where complexities are not erased, but actually amplified, because that's the real world that we have, where the content is not flat, but it's continuous. And that's what we envision we will be able to bring to life. So with this in mind, we have come up with this idea that communities in education really need to co-create and strengthen this ambitious and join that journey with us. So that learning is really sensorial, that is about experiences, that it will involve not only the head, but also the heart, our hands, our feet, which is the context where we are, the place where we are. And we understand that this is going to be different in different parts of the world. But we really believe that we need to start engaging all these four senses, if you will, four ways of being in the world in order to understand how this is going to be, what is the new discourse and the new narrative of education as we go into the next few years. So our goal, in summary, is really to teach as many school-age children as we can across the world, worldwide, about donuts economics in a way that allows for the necessary change in consciousness. Again, learning by sensory experiences. So now, with this preamble, I would like to move on to a snapshot of the work that we have so far in a more tangible manner, the design principles and the design ideas, with some examples that have been driving our work. So we are designing tools that are irresistible to new generations worldwide. So what does this actually mean? How does it feel? Here on the slide, we have a few screenshots of this vision. And this journey has been co-created so far with a few of you in our community, but we know that it will continue to do so. And it's a mix of theory and concepts, but also activities, as I said, this sensing, which will call into children reflecting about their feelings, but also what they think, and also how does it apply to their own contextual place. And we hope that when we launch them, you can also test them in different spaces and of course help us learn from your own experiences so that we can evolve them together. So this toolbox of ready-to-go materials that we hope to launch in early next year is for everyone to facilitate this learning. And we hope that they will be, as I've mentioned briefly before, valuable for formal and informal settings, culturally inclusive, but also exclusive in the sense that they will be owned by the place in which they're being rolled out. It will include young and old, a school and everywhere, a school at any time, so that it doesn't have to wait until someone decides to teach them. We're also designing tools that can spread across different platforms. So what does this actually mean? How do we ensure that that content doesn't become flat? So we're thinking like an overall architecture, if you think of a Lego box perhaps, that is readily available, or a repository of lessons that you can then mix and match, easy to combine and integrate. So you could think of them as loose blocks where you contextualize them to the moment that you are, which session, which subject, which years are you talking about, with which children. But also with a very minimalistic process so that the complexity is also manageable. So we're thinking of essential steps that can be applicable to a wide variety of situations. For example, different contexts, questions, and goals that can be assessed in different ways, as we acknowledge that different learning spaces are different across the world. And over time, where we begin to recognize some patterns that with your help, by feeding back to our communities, we begin to formalize in a way, if you say so that they can be shared, and that where we can move faster in this ambition of sharing donut economics with younger generations. I'm almost finished now. We're also thinking about, as I said, keeping that complexity, but at the same time not flattening this concept. So what does this actually mean? So we're thinking of these different cards, as I mentioned, which are different patterns that are combinable, that can be used in an isolated manner. For example, if you wanted to share a donut economics video online with a group of students, but then you also want to build into that reflection. And it may be that is shared in a space that is safe, where there is political stability, or it may be in a context where actually you don't have those affordances. So how would that material change, and what would you like, or what would you need to have besides in order to create that pattern that makes sense and meaning to the younger people, where they can really internalize it? So finally, this is the beta that we're working on. I'm not intending you to read the whole slide. This is just purely a first snapshot of the first chapter, which we have called Hello Doughnut. And it's effectively the introduction to the donut. And at the moment, what we have is a minimal viable product, if you may say so. So like that very tasting, very test that we want to share with you, so that we stopped our assumptions and we start to hear back from you. And as I said, we hope that we will be doing this early in 2024. Now, if we zoom in, this is the 5 to 7 age bracket. We're thinking of different contexts, as I mentioned, and it could be a mixture of the hearts, hands, and feet in a particular setting. But you may also think, well, actually, in this context, we should stand up and think of an activity that helps us reflect. And you may have time to do 1 or 2 activities, and later on you have that meaning making, that reflection with the whole group. But it may be as well that in other settings you need more depth, and so you need to adapt this learning to different cultures and diversity and challenges. So here, what I'm trying to show on this slide is that the lessons, which this Hello Doughnut, could be adapted to very different contexts, and so that we are proposing that we don't have a one fit for all, but actually the opposite, where we're saying these are the initial ingredients, the cards, and then you mix them up and make them your own that suit your own particular context, especially when we think of global north and global south. And finally, as we zoom out, as I mentioned earlier, we are in a very fluid state, so things are already changing. But so far, we're thinking that we will have these materials of Hello Doughnut and also the hearts, hand, and feet and head ready as soon as possible. And then what will follow? So we know that it's going to be national donuts and the 7 ways to think like a 21st century economist, really. And we really want to hear back from you to see what is that next thing that comes and how fast can we move, because we want to do things right. So I'm going to stop there, and I know that I've been rushing quickly through all these. Hence why I want to leave the next half an hour to hear back from you, the feelings that you have, any confusions that you may have, and basically your reactions. So I have these 3 questions that I would like you to share with us, either in voice or in the chat. What resonated with you from what we've said? Where could we go further? What is causing, I don't know, inspiration, or perhaps bringing up challenges in your own experience? What is missing? Are there any big blind spots that you would like to bring to our attention? So I would like to hand it over now to open the space for all of us to chat. We could either copy the questions in the chat, Leah, or to stop sharing. Yeah? Okay, I'll do that. Okay. So please don't be shy, and I welcome your feedback, your reactions. I'm going to paste them here on the chat. Thank you, Leah. I've just seen that you've done it for me. Natalia, I can see your hand. Thank you for kicking us off.
Yeah, I always like to be the first one. Well, to be done with it and not be worried about it anymore. Hello, everybody. My name is Natalia van der Wey, and I'm representing Masterpiece here. I'm replacing, I guess, my colleague Marlene Boersen, who was supposed to be here but got sick. But we are working on the same themes. Actually working with Doughnut in education already for a couple of years since we've heard about Doughnut. That became our kind of guiding star when we work with the youngsters. At Masterpiece, we work with the young people of teenagers and young adults from different backgrounds, and I was to start answering your questions. I was very pleased, and I never heard about it before. that you added this feet, this grounding to the well-known heart, hands, and head triangle. And I think this is beautiful, and it's beautiful as it's like a completes a little bit the body from top to toes, but also that this representation of community. I really loved it. This is something special. Also, to give to continue answering the first question, maybe I really liked I genuinely like Deal's ideas and the way they are presented from design point of view, and I like this simplicity and this clear way of things you put on the palette. So these cards and clear levels and the possibility to combine. I'm really looking forward to see those materials, because this is what is really needed. I believe in the industry. This is what we were like creating from scratch on our own, working with young people in formal and non-formal settings, because we have access to schools and in different European countries, and as well as basically we work as a non-commercial, non-governmental organization working with young people all around the world. So it's really needed again. That's the first part. Then of course we don't see yet what exactly it is, so it's hard to say where you can go further or what is missing, because we don't see the materials themselves yet. But I believe that from what helps, what we hear from teachers, what really helps them is this materials that are ready to use, that you can just take them and go into the lesson. Because of course teachers are super busy with a lot of formal work, with of course creating their own lessons, and it's very hard to get started with them when they don't have a space for sometimes for Doughnut. And of course there are enthusiasts that just want to start, and they come and say, yeah, I want to try, but to make it bigger, to have bigger impacts, it's really important to give them the ready to use materials to start a lesson right away. A presentation, maybe a clear description of what should be done in the lesson. I don't know what's in materials, maybe it's all there. And another feedback, answering the third question, maybe what is missing. I don't know whether it's missing, whether it should be a next step, or maybe it's somewhere inside the educational materials already, or something that you plan to have. This is something that I guess we discussed with you, Carolina, also early in our talks, that teachers also need to be educated about Doughnut, and maybe sometimes in a certain way. So this is something I think that's maybe we need to think about. We started already a little bit with our basic online course for teachers in the Netherlands to explain to them what is Doughnut and why it is important in the first place to now start doing something and use exactly this theory for their school. What is there for them? What is the value? And also the Deal platform now has so many materials on different types that it's hard to navigate through it if you don't yet have an idea, not just to browse, but to have a goal. And this is what we hope to see also happening, that there is if I'm an educator and I log in on my account on Deal, what is my, so to say, learning path there? Of course I can search for education, and then multiple tools will come out, but this is what I think can be somewhere the next step or something. So that's my sharing. That's my feedback. Thank you very much for presentation.
Thank you, Natalia. That's fantastic. And I've taken a lot of notes. I will leave some of the comments for the wrap up to give the opportunity for other voices to join the conversation. I see, Eric, your hand, you've raised your hand.
Yes, hi, can you understand me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would be super interested in like I find the like taking the whole body into the learning experience super interesting and important, but I'm like quite it isn't quite clear to me how you can do that when it is about like abstract concepts that aren't like immediately like cannot immediately become like the object of perception, where you can maybe just like experientially invoke just a part of the system. But if you mistake the part of the system for the whole thing, you misunderstand the whole concept. And I'd be like super interested in like your experiences of how you like tried to tackle that challenge. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Can you share with us an example of what you mean in education by taking the whole or a part as the whole, please?
No, I was just thinking like, how do you make like an abstract concept, like something like, okay, the economy, like the economy is more than the sum of its parts. It's like a whole dynamic. And if you like ask someone, okay, if you like I mean, I don't have experience in education, so I don't really know how you tackle that. So it's like quite difficult for me to give an example, but it's just like when I thought about these things, that's just like a gap that I feel that came to my mind that feels very difficult to bridge. And yeah, I would like to know about your experiences there.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm looking at you as an expert in regenerative economies.
Okay, so I guess I would say, first of all, I'm not familiar with all these materials yet, and so I can't comment on anything concretely. I do understand your thinking, because you've got, economics, we're talking about a complex dynamic system. And so trying to get some of these ideas across in a way that is always focused on sensory experiences might then limit students' understanding of the complexity, because it isn't always just about sensory experience. So I don't have an answer to how the curriculum might address that. But what I can say, what I think is interesting about it, again, is this focus on trying to engage the head, heart, hands, and feet. And that it's not necessarily, maybe even for the older age groups, that everything, I don't know for sure, Caroline, you're going to have to correct me, that everything is going to be a total sensory experience, but there's also going to be, head and hands and heart, emotional connection as well. And so if we can capture those things, then I think we can capture much of the complexity that you're talking about. But I'll be interested to see. I think in many cases, this is all very emergent material. And so we have to try things out, see how it resonates, see how it works, and iterate over time. Yeah, it's part of the design process.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I'll try and come in now before I see another hand up. But picking up from what you were saying, Natalia, and I think it links with what you were saying now, Eric. Part of what we're trying to do is not only share the core concepts of donut economy, but acknowledge that depending on where you are situated, your positionality in the world, not only contextual or geographically, but also in which type of economy you live and the stability of governments, whether there is safety or not, that all of that is going to influence your learning process. And so our intention is that the materials will offer those cards of content, but also situate them for allow the spaces, the learners and the facilitators or teachers to make them their own by framing them in their context. So to give you a brief example, if there is a teacher in a very safe space where there are resources and time and a curriculum that is flexible enough to talk about what is the donut, is going to be very different. That process of learning and having an activity and then a reflection and the expectations of the answers of those children and what their everyday may look like. When you think in contrast, perhaps of an informal school, perhaps with very few facilitators or limited resources, perhaps where there are challenges about safety and trust and power across a school or society, where the challenges of learning about donut economics are going to be very different, but also the activities that you run and the everyday lives of those children or teenagers may be very different, and therefore the way in which you present and you create that dialogue and that sensorial experience, which is from the head to the hands to the heart and the feet, needs to be approached differently, right? It needs to be contextualized differently, so that is meaningful to that context and that space. So that hopefully gives you a taste of what we're trying to do here. And that touches upon what you were saying as well, Natalia, of what we're hearing of the challenges of teachers, in that is not only about learning and having ready to take donut economics learning tools, but also perhaps teachers who are interested but have no previous knowledge about sustainability, or who may feel challenged by resistance from their schools or their education settings or even the government, and so they don't know what is that right pathway or negotiation that is needed to bring these materials into the learning context. And that also brings me to something else that we've been discussing about internally, that we want to embed these tools as well with the capacity to equip facilitators and young learners to discuss and negotiate what they're learning. So it may be that in the classroom, there are different voices where some of them are really interested and they feel like we can do something with it and we're gonna run away and change the world. And you may have other contexts or individuals across different age brackets that may be very resistant. And so how do you actually have that conversation? Because that's part of learning, right? How do you, that's what we need to equip young generations, so that when they leave that education setting, they know how to go and discuss that with their friends, with their families, with anyone, really. How do we help them to discuss this and negotiate that? I'm gonna leave that now and open it up for any other voices. I haven't been able to be following the chat. So Jennifer, are there any key points perhaps, or anyone who wants to raise their hand now?
Hannah was just in the chat pointing out, she said she also appreciates the clear age groups and the use of dynamic activities that are also flexible. She was asking the question, you had mentioned this dichotomy of global north and global south, and she was wondering about whether there might be some framing that kind of acknowledges that we don't live in this kind of binary world where there's global north and global south, but everything in between, and how that might be dealt with.
Thank you. So perhaps I've covered a little bit of that in my previous answer, Hannah. Is she gone? Maybe. I think she's left. Yeah, maybe. But I suppose what I would answer to that, or help to contribute to that discussion, is that we are aware that there are different socioeconomic challenges in across, that is not exclusive of the North or of the South, and so that you will have a mix of contexts and challenges from one block to the next, from one rural village to a city, from one country to another, to a continent to another. So yes, global North and South is a big simplification of the challenges that we're trying to deal with. Can I invite any other voices? Going back to the questions. Jennifer.
Actually, I was just wondering about one thing that we did in my school some years back is we started to explore how to take the 4 lenses used in the cities work to try to apply them to the school context to help our school use the Doughnut framework to start making better decisions and thinking about school change. And I was just wondering to what extent, you know, the materials that are being created are about learning or might be related to making change also in school in some way.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, I think that's the deep ambition that I was referring to, in that we want to be able to hear and satisfy the needs that we're sensing and hearing from our community, but at the same time we acknowledge that we need to be to walk that example of begin to transform that education process and what it may mean. Is that what you were referring to, Jennifer? So that's why we feel so hesitant in a way in that balance between offering materials that will keep to the integrity of the core concepts of donut economics, but at the same time not curating them to the extent where there is no space for them to be appropriated in the local spaces. Right. Natalia.
Yeah, I just came up with a question that's, I don't know if it's should be a part of this discussion. Maybe it should. Like, what is your plan to, you say it's formal, the materials are designed for formal and non-formal education. And is there any plan to, in any way, well, not to use word push, but suggest these materials to the official curricula of schools, starting, I don't know, in the UK or European Union or somewhere else, United States, or where you have, or through the partners you have access to the formal educational system? Is this a part of the plan, or it's up to community?
Well, we hope that when we launch them, there will be a wide community, including, you know, going all across that continuum that will be interested. And we already have interest, you know, from the top down, you know, curriculum designers, schools, from different types of or threads of school of thought. And also we have the bottom up. And what we hope is that when we launch them, following our principles of you know, going where the energy is, that we will go and satisfy those needs as the people see that need. But of course our ambition is that we will be able to make them available in any educational setting, whether they are fitting exactly in a curriculum or whether they are co-opted, you know, by individuals, independent individuals. Annette, I see your hand.
Yeah, just a quick question. Will it be available in other languages as well in February, or will it take longer?
Thank you very much, Annette. That's a beautiful question. We are working hard so that they will be available at least in 3 languages when we launch them, and what we hope is to count with our community as well. But we're working hard on learning from our previous experiences as well, with you know, beginning to translate very early on. That's the ambition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right. We have about 10 minutes before we finish. If we have any other questions or conversations or points of view.
The chat is quiet.
Yeah. It's late at night. Right. So I'll give them a couple of minutes, otherwise I'll just wrap it up, our session, and I will just bring in my screen again. I'm sharing there my email, so it would be great if any of you would like to have a further conversation of what we've done today, or if you wanted to be part of that community that would like to pilot some of our materials when we're ready to share them widely in detail. What I've heard today is a lot of confirmation of this sensing the theme that we've discussed earlier on, and that is enriching and deeply satisfying to know that we're working along the lines of what our community is hoping that we can support them with. Any other thoughts, Jennifer, that you would like to bring up before we wrap up or we finish?
I mean, not specifically, except to say that I'm very excited about these materials and also so happy to see the way they're being built in a modular format and age-appropriate settings so that teachers can pick them up and use them in whatever cracks they can find in their days to help these ideas grow in their schools. I'm really looking forward to seeing them. Thank you so much for sharing the work that you've done so far. Sneak peek.
Thank you. We wish we could share more, and we hope to be able to launch them early January. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for taking the time to share with us. And if, as I said earlier, if there are any further comments or conversations that you wanted to have, I would be more than happy to meet up one-to-one with any of you and embed your own experiences into our learning materials. Right. So thank you so much. And this brings us to the end. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening and you can join us in the next sessions that we have in the Global Doughnut Day. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.